Hello and welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. Not only is this episode going to be amazing, but it is a very special episode because this is the 2023 draft special episode of Sports Talk with Dad. But before we get into any of that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me. A man who was there for the very first NFL draft. My dad, Tim.
No, I wasn't.
Pete Rozelle calling out the names in the very first NFL draft.
Was Pete even the commissioner when they had 17 rounds and Bart Starr was picked? And it was
I don't know, honestly. You were there. You would know better than me.
No, I wasn't even a glint in my father's eye when the first one took place.
I thought you went to high school with Bart Starr.
Who?
You. I could have sworn you went to high school with Bart Starr. I mean, hey,
just
medical marvels exist.
Speaking of medical things, so we were going to record this show a couple hours ago, but Mr. Eating Healthy here.
I had a moment of weakness. I was very hungry.
You don't go to a convenience store and get a day-old hot dog and think this will be a good thing to eat.
Listen, I don't know if it was a day-old hot dog.
It was wrinkled and leathery.
You weren't there. You were making things up. I ate it before I even got home.
Well,
okay?
I heard the after effects of it.
I was hungry. It sounded good. The issue is when you eat clean, because I've really been, besides a couple of slip-ups with candy, I've been eating very, very clean. No junk food, no fast food.
Definitely no hot dogs.
No gas station hot dogs for almost a year and a half, 2 years now.
Why
at this point?
Why
I was very hungry. It sounded really good for whatever reason. You know how you have those moments where something sounds really good and you just can't explain why it sounds good?
I love hot dogs. You know this. I love hot dogs.
It was a mistake.
I don't eat convenience store hot dogs.
It was dumb. It was a bad. Don't do it. Okay. It was a bad decision. I was praying to the porcelain gods for the last 2 hours.
Okay. Let's talk NFL draft and no more disgustingness. Aaron Rodgers.
I feel better now. Thanks for asking, by the way.
Aaron Rodgers has to be my award winner for the classiest human being of the month of April.
I agree. First and foremost, as I'm sure everybody that watches this show knows, Aaron Rodgers was officially traded to the Green Bay Packers, and what turned out to be
traded from the Green Bay Packers.
Traded from the Green Bay Packers. Thank you.
I know.
I want him in Green Bay.
I do too. You don't
wishful thinking.
Look,
it turned out to be the Packers, considering what I thought they were going to receive, ended up getting a pretty good deal in return. Now, I don't think there's anything in return that you can get for a Hall of Fame quarterback, especially one that I think still has a lot left in the tank. But we do have Mr. Number 8 here in front of us. I see you got your Jets thing up now.
Got my Jets.
I'm a Jets fan this year.
Look, I've always loved the Jets. I remember Joe Willie Namath, Broadway Joe. I love that team. I love those uniforms, which that bobblehead represents. But I didn't want to see Rodgers go. We've made no bones about that on this show. But if you're going to trade him now. They got a good deal for him. They flip-flopped number ones, which we called on this show.
Yep.
They got a number 2, which we called on this show.
Yep.
And they also got a later round pick. And they're probably going to get a
They got a 6, and then they got a second or first if he plays 65% of the plays.
He's going to be a number 1 next year.
Barring, knock on wood, him getting hurt.
I want him to play 12 games. Then I want them to tank. And I want us to get a good draft pick.
I want the Packers getting the last pick in the first round. I'm being dead serious. I want the Packers to get the 32nd pick in the first round. Rodgers gets his Super Bowl.
I want him to get it the year after. I want him to get it in 25.
No, let him ride off in the sunset. There's no guarantee he comes back. Let him win a Super Bowl because he's not going to be a Jet next year. He's going to be a Viking the year after next.
So he's going to completely follow the Brett Favre path. He wrote a classy letter. He even thanked Murphy and Gutekunst, which is a big man. I don't think they treated him well for a superstar. Well,
of course he hasn't.
He wanted to go out like Bart Starr. We've talked about that.
Of course he did. This is a man that didn't want to leave Green Bay.
Correct.
We've talked about this. This is a Hall of Fame quarterback that loved Green Bay so much he didn't want to leave. And he was forced out. What makes him so classy is not only did he mention the people that drafted him by name, not only did he mention his coaches by name, he mentioned people by name that simply worked for the Green Bay Packers. He mentioned strength coaches. He mentioned all of his quarterback coaches, all of his quarterback coaches in Green Bay. He mentioned people in the executive office. He mentioned people on the third and fourth floor. He mentioned everybody.
We'll post a link or we'll post the thank you that he put up because it was very, very classy. Say what you want about Aaron Rodgers being California fruit and nuts. He's an eclectic human being, but deep down, he is, I think, one of the most genuine, nicest people that's ever been in Green Bay. He's been great to just the community in Green Bay. He goes grocery shopping up there. Granted, people in Green Bay have seen this for years and they leave him alone, but he walks with random kids that he sees going down the street just to give them a thrill. He gets it.
Listen, there is getting choked up a little bit. It really is a sad day for me. Number one, it's an end and chapter in the Packers' life, but chapters always change. This is obviously a chapter in my fandom. It's ended, right? Rodgers has been there my entire adult life. It's if you want to know what love is for an area, somebody who comes in from the outside and who finds a home and who just finds love in a place. I mean, Aaron Rodgers clearly found that in Green Bay, and he even said, I'll see you again.
Yeah, he's coming back.
It's a beautiful sentiment, and to those Packer fans out there, Rodgers isn't going to say this because he's a class act, and we don't use 4-letter F words on this show, so I will say really it in a classy way.
Yeah, that's fine.
To you Packer fans that want to are excited that this man has left our team, are excited that this man has left our community, that somebody who showed nothing but love to our state, who showed nothing but love to an organization that we cherish, who has shown nothing but love to the fans and done nothing but give his all every step of the way, you can stick it where the sun don't shine, because this is unacceptable behavior. You can be ready to move on. That's fine. You may not like his attitude. That's fine. We don't all have to get along in this world. We don't all have to agree with what other people believe. But when somebody gives you nothing but love and passion and hard work and dedication,
he's earned their respect.
And your response is good riddance, stick it where the sun don't shine. Learn how to appreciate when people give nothing but greatness to you. Say thank you and move forward. Do not say good riddance to a man who has shown this organization nothing but pride and love and a winning culture. Rodgers from Sports Talk with Dad, thank you so much for all you have done. We have our Jet stuff out here. We will have our number 8 Jets jersey. And that's another thing, too. Not taking down number 12 from the rafters.
God. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. So everybody, even Namath came out and said, you can wear number 12. Rodgers is too classy for that because he knows his number is going to be retired in Green Bay. And he doesn't want that number ever coming off the wall.
Well, I don't even think it's that. It's the respect for the game.
Joe Namath.
Here's the thing. If somebody came into Green Bay and tried to take 15 down, Rodgers would be screaming the loudest.
Absolutely, he would.
He has that same respect for Joe Namath that he has for Bart Starr. Mm-hmm. You don't take numbers down from the rafters.
And we've talked about that.
And it wasn't even a question to Rodgers.
No. I think it would have been funny if he would have worn number 4, but
or number 10.
Yeah, number 10. He wasn't going to wear that. But 8 is the number he had in college.
Correct.
He just respects the game. He respects the fans. There would have been a certain number of fans in New York who would have hated him for taking Namath's number. He gets it.
Right.
And
every Jets fan should have hated him for taking 12.
I hated it when Namath said, yeah, you can have my number.
Right.
No.
I don't agree with that at all.
And
I don't agree with Manning taking it down.
Look what we go through every year when we see somebody wearing number 5 in Green Bay. Paul Horney's number should be retired and nobody should be wearing it. Nobody's ever going to wear number 12 in Green Bay again.
Nope.
Nobody's ever going to wear number 12 in New York again because Rodgers is going to wear number 8.
Correct.
Good for him. The love we have for Aaron Rodgers is infinitesimal. I can't wait for him to come back and be a Packer Hall of Famer. Can't wait for him to go in the Hall of Fame. Yep. I know they don't wear helmets or hats in the NFL Hall of Fame, but he'd go in as a Packer. He is going to be part of the family forever.
Correct.
Especially when Mark Murphy retires in another year. But all right.
All the love to Aaron Rodgers. We'll be there.
So
when you show up to Lambeau again, trust me, we'll find a way to make our way down. Honestly, and it's the last thing I'm going to say, and I know we're moving on, but there are not many people, especially that are athletes, that I look at my kids and say, this is how you act. And again, while I don't necessarily agree with everything he said, the ayahuasca thing is still weird to me, but whatever, that's his choice. We don't have to agree on everything, but I've always been taught by you, I've been taught by my mother, my grandparents, all the people I've looked up to, don't look at what somebody says, look at how they act. And I say the same thing to my kids, and showing my kids as they're growing up. My oldest son is 10 now. My youngest is 7. Saying, watch how Aaron Rodgers acts. Watch how he works hard. It's been a pleasure. And again, Aaron, thank you so much for giving us Mr. Rodgers neighborhood as long as you have, and for all the great years.
So, and I remember, and I know you do, back in 2000, what year was it when he was drafted?
2004.
2004, when he dropped to number 24, and the Packers did the
21.
right thing. 21, whatever. Moved up to grab him in that draft.
Yep.
One of the greatest draft
Didn't move up. He just fell. He fell into the Packers' lap.
He fell, but I thought the Packers jumped up a spot. I think they did. Check it out.
I'd have to check it out.
All right. But in any case.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast. I remember that hot dog well, though.
I don't want to talk about that anymore. So we're going to be talking. This is like a guy's holiday coming up.
It is.
First round NFL draft. We're going to do the top 15 draft picks.
We are.
Because with the amount of trades that look like they're going to take place, are predicted to take place, which never happens usually.
It doesn't.
But the bottom half of the draft is kind of a crapshoot. People will take a stretch if they've evaluated somebody. These are the big picks. These are the ones everybody's been talking about for months and months and months.
These are the picks. The top 15 are the picks that are either going to change your franchise. Well, they are going to change your franchise for the good or the bad.
One way or the
going
other.
Forward. And so the top 15 are the big ones.
Are you going to get a Peyton Manning, or are you going to get a Ryan Lee? Or Marcus Russell?
Ooh.
You got those. Are you going to get an Aaron Rodgers? Or are you going to get a pick your other quarterbacks that didn't do so
Zach
well?
Wilson.
There you go. There you go. Well,
on the same team now. Yeah. Well, now with the S2 cognitive test, it shouldn't be as much of an issue anymore. We're going to save it. Don't go into that. We are going to save it. But before we get into any of that, let us know what you think about Aaron Rodgers. And don't just let us know. Send your love to Aaron Rodgers in the comments below as well. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell as much so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it.
And if you have guts, say good riddance to him and watch what we do to you.
I don't threaten people that watch our show.
I'm just not
Thank you for watching our show.
We appreciate it. All 30,000 subscribers watch the show, but I will say unkind things.
We shouldn't record this late. You're getting I will say
little unkind things to you if you rip on Aaron Rodgers.
That is fair.
But
we are doing the top 15, and not only are we doing that, we get to play GM, which I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to play GM, and I don't just have to play GM, and you don't have to just play GM for one team. We get to do it for the top 15 picks. And we have a special coin here, in case you hadn't noticed before. We are going to flip a coin live on the air. The winner gets to make all the odd picks. So 1, 3, 5, 7, down to 15. And the person who does not win the coin flip gets to pick 2 and all the even numbers. You, sir, get to make the call. Heads or tails?
Tails.
is heads, folks.
Fine.
Kyle gets the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft.
Before we put you on the clock, it's important to remember we are not predicting trades on this because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Correct.
The Aaron Rodgers trade is obviously going to be factored into this.
Correct.
But we're just picking as though the teams are standing pat and they're going to pull their player at their position.
Correct.
Got that out.
Yes. And again, we are the ones making these
We're the
picks.
GM.
These are our decisions. We will discuss what we think is going to happen.
Correct.
But these are our picks. And I think it is time, good father figure, for the Carolina Panthers
to be on the clock
with the first overall pick in the NFL draft. I believe the Carolina... Well, I don't know anymore because...
Been a lot of talk today.
All of a sudden, Will Levis is a 4-1 odds to go number 1 overall.
And by the way, before we go any further, we haven't discussed these picks with each other.
Not at all.
We're just...
I plan on us screwing this up a lot.
Yes.
So...
It wouldn't be Sports Talk with Dad if we didn't make
exactly
guaranteed to go wrong. So, yeah, Will Levis has been predicted late this afternoon.
Right.
All of a sudden, his stock has gone way up.
Correct. CJ Stroud is obviously who I'm a favorite of, being an Ohio State fan. However, something did come out about his... So they take these S2 cognitive tests, which are new as of 2015.
Different than the Wonderlic test.
They're gone now. They don't do the Wonderlic test anymore. This isn't a intelligent test. This is a test to see how quickly you make decisions and if you make the right decisions. You have a quick chance to do it. All of the top quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Drew Brees took it at one point. Brock Purdy took this. They all scored 90 or above.
While it doesn't guarantee you're a superstar, if you score in a certain level below, it almost certainly guarantees you're going to flop in the NFL.
Well, what is unacceptable is to score 18%.
Yeah, and
now this got leaked and more came out on the Pat McAfee show, where the creator of the S2 cognitive test that gives it to the players, he wouldn't say any names, but it was clear he was talking about CJ Stroud, said he had been up since 6 in the morning. He didn't take the test till 11 o'clock at night. He was hungry, tired, didn't want to do it, and did it anyway.
So he was under
clearly
stress.
Didn't care.
He was under stress like a 300-pound linebacker was heading at him.
Well, he'll never be in a situation where he's going to be up until 6 in the morning and doing something at 11 o'clock at night.
Really?
The NFL games end before 11 o'clock at night, number one. And number two, they're going to make sure he has enough rest. They're going to make sure he's prepared.
But what they're going to say is, what, you're not getting up at 6 in the morning and you're working out, you're going to practice, and then you have to play a full game, and then you have to answer the media. Like if it's a Monday night game, it may end at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So it's a regular day for an NFL quarterback, right?
Wrong. But here's the issue I have. I have nothing wrong with him doing bad in the test, those type of situations. What I have a problem with is he had a decision to make that night.
He made the wrong one.
And his decision should have been, I'm not taking this test right now.
Correct.
Because they ended up retesting him and apparently scored a lot higher. But the issue is now you've already seen the test. You know it's coming. And you're prepared for it. And the idea is you're not prepared for this test. You made the wrong decision. He should have not taken that
job
test.
Interview. We've all been through them. He made a bad call that's going to hurt his draft stock.
It is. But how much is he going to fall? Because, again, I believe C.J. Stroud is a great quarterback and going to be a great quarterback in this league.
You're on the clock.
I'm on the clock.
Your 5 minutes is almost up.
With the number one overall pick, the Carolina Panthers select quarterback Anthony Richardson, University of Florida.
Wow. That's a stretch.
It is not a stretch.
That's a stretch. Why would you take him?
He's everything.
He's got the most raw talent.
He's everything. Who is one of my all-time favorite quarterbacks to ever be drafted in the NFL?
Cam Newton. Or
Cam Newton as well.
RG3.
RG3 is the greatest prospect to ever be drafted, in my opinion. He had all the intangibles, and without going to a bad situation, he would be still in this league and be having a Hall of Fame career. It is unacceptable what happened to RG3. Anthony Richardson is RG3. He has the arm, he has the speed, he has the brain, he has the intangibles, he has the leadership skills, Anthony Richardson is going to be the best quarterback coming out of this draft class. He's going to need a couple years. But when it's all said and done, he will be the best quarterback coming out of this draft class. If I am the Carolina Panthers, I am drafting Anthony Richardson number 1 overall and being extremely excited to have him be the future of my franchise.
I still think they're going to take Bryce Young.
You can think what you want,
I think,
but I get to make the pick right now.
You made the pick. I'm just saying, I think that's who they're going to pick.
And Anthony Richardson is the number 1 pick in the Sports Talk with Dad 2023 NFL Draft.
Okay. Who do you think they will take?
Bryce Young.
Okay.
I do.
Glad we're on the same page.
But if they're smart, they take Anthony Richardson.
All right.
Houston Texans are on the clock.
Now, knowing that in your mind, that taking Anthony Richardson, that means Bryce Young drops to number 2. Do I think the Texans are going to take him? No, I don't. I think...
Listen, Bryce Young is 5'10", 195 pounds. So, there's never been a quarterback that's been that successful. He's a savant. He's very smart. He makes quick decisions.
Are you going to let me make
5'10"?
Are you going to let me make my pick?
Yes.
You going to let me justify my pick?
Maybe.
It's going to be one of those nights, folks.
I'm nervous you're going to take Bryce Young, and I just don't agree with that pick at all.
I am not taking Bryce Young. I think Texans would be foolish to take a quarterback at this position, especially when they have needs on the other side of the ball. They've got to have an edge rusher, a dominant defensive end. I think there's only one pick in this draft for them. No matter who's on the board, number 2, Houston Texans select Will Anderson Jr., defensive end out of Alabama.
If they pick Will Anderson Jr., they are setting themselves up for success going forward. He is the next J.J. Watt.
He is. The only pick they can make. There will be a quarterback available to them at number 12 because, remember, they have 2 picks in the top 15.
Yeah.
Detroit has 2 picks in the top 20.
They do. So does Seattle.
So there's some movement that could happen, but Houston Texans are taking Will Anderson Jr. On the clock, the Arizona Cardinals.
Now, this pick I do think is being traded.
I do too.
I 100% believe that this pick is being traded, especially if Bryce Young is still on the clock or on the board at this point. It becomes hot commodity. The Arizona Cardinals get to name their own price, and they're going to move back. But again, we are not playing that game here. We are playing the game of I have to make the pick with number 3, with the Arizona Cardinals being there. I have a lot to choose from.
A lot of people on the board left. You got defense, offense. You can go whichever way you want.
Well, it's the worst roster in the NFL.
Correct.
Let's be honest. They're not drafting a quarterback because you have Kyler Murray. I'm not a Kyler Murray fan. However, you just paid him a lot of money. He is your quarterback going forward. You know me. If I'm building a team from scratch, which is essentially what the Arizona Cardinals are doing right now, you got to get the big guy up front. You got to make sure your quarterback you just spent a lot of money on is protected, and you have to make sure that you're building from that offensive line. The number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft, 2023 Sports Talk with Dad NFL draft, is Peter Skrnowski, tackle from Northwestern.
Wow.
Now, let me explain this a little bit more because I understand he has short arms. I understand that Johnson Jr. is a much better tackle in this situation, but you're not just trying to protect the outside. You're looking for the best offensive lineman on this board. And Skrnowski, you can move him to guard, and he will still be that all-around player that you need him to be. He is a plug-and-play solution wherever you need him. And I think as long as you go into the mindset saying, hey, this is a guy where I can put anywhere across an offensive line and not be afraid to do that, this is the best pick you can make, and he is the best offensive lineman in this draft right now.
Most people are saying the Cardinals are going to go defense. It's interesting you go offense.
You just paid a quarterback.
I know.
You got to protect
You got to protect the quarterback. You got to have the big uglies up front,
Correct.
as they called.
What did I say when the Texans first came into the league? When they were first expanding, when they were first making that draft, the worst thing they did with the number 1 overall pick is drafting David Carr. because you had nothing to protect him. If you are building an NFL team, which the Arizona Cardinals now need to do because they don't have a good roster, that you need to draft an offensive lineman to make sure that you have that solidified for any other players you bring in going forward.
Okay.
That leaves you with the Indianapolis Colts. You are on the clock.
They are taking a quarterback here.
Most likely.
Not even a question. I think it comes down to CJ Stroud or Will Levis. Levis looks like just a stereotypical quarterback. CJ Stroud gives you much more options.
You also have Bryce Young still on the board.
For the reasons you jumped in on me before and didn't let me finish the sentence, I don't draft Bryce Young here. I just don't think he's the kind of quarterback I want. I know who I think should take him and will take him, but that's a little bit later. Again, it's my pick.
It's all you.
With the number 4 pick in the Sports Talk with Dad 2023 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts take quarterback Will Levis.
Now, I do believe if Will Levis is still on the board, no matter what other quarterbacks are there, this is the pick for the Indianapolis Colts.
I've seen a lot of people taking Stroud in this place.
You could, but Will Levis is all of a sudden being talked about in ways he hasn't been talked about before.
No, he's moving up in the last 72 hours. Here's my question. What if Richardson and Stroud are on the board? Or Richardson and Levis are both on the board at number 4, which could happen.
My pick is Richardson, obviously. I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. I think he's the best player in this draft, honestly. But
that's not true.
My opinion.
Yeah, and you're entitled to be wrong.
I mean, Richardson's the pick all day long. However, he's not on the board because I made a very smart pick picking him number 1 overall.
Got it.
So Will Levis is a very good choice in this situation. I disagree with the pick. I think CJ Stroud is the pick here.
No. I think Will Levis's pick in Indianapolis just seems to fit what they're trying to do. And I think he's going to be very productive there.
I think he will too. He has a good shot at least. Kentucky quarterbacks picked this high in the draft have not panned out in the past. But that may be because of the Cleveland Browns, not so much the quarterback.
I'm not putting that on Will Levis.
Does leave me on the clock.
It leaves you on the clock. Number 5, Seattle Seahawks.
Now,
this is interesting.
This is interesting because you have Jalen Carter still on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Tyree Wilson still on the board.
And you have Bryce Young.
still on the board. But you have to see it. You just signed Geno Smith, right, to a 3-year extension.
Point.
You can really solidify your defense here. Jalen Carter would be a great pick. Yes, he's put on some weight. Yes, he's had some other issues coming into his pro day, but he is grieving. He is going through a lot right now. He'll be ready for day 1.
Seattle paid Matt Flynn a lot of money.
They did, but this is my pick. I won the coin flip, and I get to make this choice.
So make it.
Tyree Wilson makes me nervous because he has a broken foot. And broken feet, when it comes to any athlete, is a scary situation that can really mess with you. It is the feet in the back ruin careers.
Correct.
When they get hurt, because it's hard to come back from. It depends how well Tyree Wilson comes back from that. Because if he does come back extremely well and healthy, he could be Joey Bosa in this situation. He really could. He's got the size. He's got the speed. He's 6'5", 271. This guy's a monster. However, Pete Carroll also doesn't seem to have a problem with short quarterbacks. He turned around Russell Wilson.
Yeah, well,
he drafted Russell Wilson, I should say.
He didn't turn him around.
And put him in the system and turned him into an outstanding quarterback. Bryce Young's very smart. Pete Carroll likes smart quarterbacks. I think Geno Smith is a good option, but with Bryce Young on the board, you can't turn him down. With the number 5 overall pick in the 2023 Sports Talk with Dad NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select quarterback Bryce Young.
Seattle would be cheering loudly if Bryce Young is still on the board at number 5.
They'd be pretty ecstatic.
They'd be pretty happy.
Gino's going to be hurt, but you know what? He got a lot of guaranteed money in that situation. He's going to have to battle. As you said, they paid Matt Flynn a ton of money. And Pete Carroll said, you know what? This is my quarterback, and made the right decision. He's 100% not afraid to do that again. This was a smart move by Seattle, locking up Gino to make sure you had a quarterback, because that's their number one plan.
Right.
But in this type of situation where a quarterback like Bryce Young drops you at 5, you make that pick.
And I think they like Bryce Young if he's available. You could let him sit behind Gino for a year. Gino was fine for another year.
Right. And if he's not there, I think they end up going with Jalen Carter. But in this situation, he's there. And you draft Bryce Young, which leaves the Detroit Lions on the clock.
A lot of options here. Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter's there.
Carter. Sorry, I had 2 names going through my head.
Jalen Carter's on the board. CJ Stroud at quarterback is still on the board.
That's
you have
happening.
Tyree Wilson to put on the opposite side of Hutchinson in Detroit, which would make a dangerous
Whose pick is this? Yours or mine?
I'm building you up while you have time to think.
There's one other player that I think is the top talent in this draft. Hands down, not even close. That I think if Detroit is smart, they'll take. I don't think they're going to take him here, but this is my pick.
It is your pick. You are the GM of the Detroit Lions.
As the GM of the Detroit Lions, with the number 6 pick, the Detroit Lions take running back Bijan Robinson. They would have a monster offense. It'd be the second coming or the third coming of number 20, because you had
Barry Sanders.
You had the guy who wore it before from
Bernie
Oklahoma.
Sims.
Billy Sims.
Yes.
Billy Sims, who wore it before. Obviously, that number's retired now.
Right.
But Bijan Robinson gives Jared Goff options because he's a great pass catcher. He's also a dynamic runner. I think they'd be foolish not to take him. And honestly, and I'll say this, if Robinson is there at 13 when Green Bay is picking and they don't pick them, I don't ever want to hear Green Bay say, well, we take the best player available, because he is the best player in this draft and could very well be available at 15.
Can you imagine Bijan Robinson partner with David Montgomery in Detroit?
Oh, so I think they would either take Devon Witherspoon, the cornerback out of Illinois, or if he's available, I think they'll take Jalen Carter. One of those two.
Yeah.
So I do think they're going defense, but if it were me, and because this is me, and I get to make the pick, I'm taking the best player in this draft.
I think it's smart because you just lost your number 1 receiver for 6 games. You need to have some playmakers to protect Jared Goff while he's looking for his other receivers to get open.
Well, and you need to have somebody that can open up the field and take the pressure off of Goff, having to constantly make plays with his arm. This really allows them to do that.
Listen, you're not hearing an argument from me. I actually think it's a great pick.
Next up, number 7, the Las Vegas Raiders.
This is where it gets interesting. The Raiders need defense. They need defense real bad. You got Jimmy Garoppolo there. Who knows what he's going to be, but he'll be able to manage that offense extremely well. But we haven't drafted CJ Stroud yet.
Nope.
And we know the Raiders love them a quarterback that can throw that ball down the field.
Can't. They won't.
You have a quarterback who comes from the Ohio State University, who could be the future of your franchise for years to come. You want to talk about money?
You better
with Vegas.
You better
CJ Stroud is money.
You better protect Jimmy Garoppolo.
You better. But you know what you need to do in Vegas right now more than have a quarterback?
Not draft a quarterback.
You need to make sure you have people that can defend down the field, because you are facing Patrick Mahomes. You are facing Justin Herbert. You are facing what we assume will be a much better Russell Wilson in this situation. So you need to make sure you have somebody that can defend those quarterbacks, which is why with the number 7 overall pick in the Sports Talk with Dad 2023 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Christian Gonzalez, cornerback, Oregon.
Great pick.
He's 6'1". He's got all the speed and the playmaking abilities. He runs a 4.38 in the 40. This is a guy who's going to be a Jair Alexander type in the NFL, and you have to make sure that you have somebody down the field to defend against those quarterbacks. And right now the Raiders don't. This fills an immediate need and also make sure they get the best player off the board. Which means with the number 8 overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons are officially on the clock.
So they've got a lot of needs. They're not just a player away. However, they need some threats.
They do.
And to look at the mock drafts that are out there, there are as many picks for the Falcons as there are people in this draft.
Right.
I mean, they could easily go for a linebacker. They could go for a edge rusher. There's just a lot of things you can do. But if you're going to go and you're a team with a lot of needs, you need weapons. I know he was hurt, but I think you've got to take a chance on getting some deep threats.
Make sure you say the college right.
So, with the number 8 pick, the Atlanta Falcons choose Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State.
You didn't say it right. Say it right.
No, I will not.
Say it right.
I did. It's Ohio State. No.
Ohio State University.
Sorry.
The first Ohio State player off the board in the first round.
You didn't hear me do that. You didn't hear me do that.
Ohio State University.
I apologize, but
he's hurt. He's been fighting hamstring injuries. Listen, I am more excited than you about this pick because he is the best receiver in this draft, hands down, when it comes to playmaking ability, route running, speed. But you also know me not drafting players that have been hurt in college coming into the draft. And the hamstring injury is something you don't mess around with.
I actually thought about having him go to Detroit, considering Williamson is out for 6 games.
It's a good pick, but I also agree with you not doing that because there will be a receiver at 18.
Correct. And will be good receivers at 18.
Zay Flowers or Quentin Johnson, if not both of them will be there.
They've got to do their due diligence. I hope they have, and they found out that Jigba's hamstring is healthy, sound, and not going to be a recurring injury. He's going to have to do a lot of stretches and really protect that thing going forward.
I think it's a great pick. When you have a team like Atlanta that has so many holes, but yet feels so close to being special, a playmaker like this, especially with Calvin Ridley, now being in Jacksonville, well done. It's a very good fit.
Now, next up on the board at number 9, the Bears, who, let's face it, the Bears love defense. It's the monsters of the Midway. They go defense all the time. They never, ever, ever go offensive linemen. They just
is this payback for me doing this to you?
They just leave the quarterbacks hang out to dry, which they've done to Justin Fields now. Not that it's a bad thing. I think Justin Fields getting drilled on a constant basis is a good thing because he comes from Ohio State.
The Ohio State. But the fact that you like to think about Justin Fields being drilled is really weird.
Justin Fields is an outstanding quarterback, and they've got to find a way to protect him.
Is this my pick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this my pick?
I'm done.
Here's the thing. You have Tyree Wilson on the board.
You do?
Broken foot. I don't like drafting players that have broken feet.
There's only
it's
one
very
pick.
Dangerous.
But
he is still on the board right now.
I
have Jalen Carter still on the board right now. A player who, if he gets over his grief and can put his head back in the game, is the difference maker. Devin Witherspoon, as much as I hate the fact that he played for Illinois, is a huge playmaker and probably the best player still on this board right now. Miles Murphy is still there.
Luke Van Ness.
You have a lot. Lucas Van
Ness from Iowa is
he's
on the
still
board.
there. You can make a big splash and make sure you have a good tight end for Justin Fields to throw to, because what's better than an offensive lineman is a security blanket that you can drop it off to. But there is one pick. If you're the Chicago Bears, you have to make sure you protect Justin Fields and the best left tackle.
You're going to the City of Lights?
No, I am going to the Eiffel Tower, because he is tall, strong, sturdy, and will be there for generations to come, protecting the blind side of Justin Fields. From the Ohio State University, with the number 9 overall pick, the Chicago Bears select Paris Johnson Jr.
It's the only pick they can make. But I've seen mock draft after mock draft saying they're going defensive end.
Listen, and Lucas Van Ness is here. He's moving up. The issue I have with him is he hasn't started a game yet. You could go Jalen Carter here. He's still on the board. You still have Tyree Wilson on the board here, but you have to protect your quarterback. And the Bears never do that. Why do their quarterbacks keep getting destroyed? Because you never make sure you have an offensive line to protect them. That's been a problem since I've been alive. You've never had an offensive line to protect them. The year that they won a Super Bowl is the only time they ever had an offensive line.
Right. And here's the thing. A lot of people are saying that they're going to take Skromsky out in Northwestern. I think that's a bad pick here. I think you've got to solidify the left side.
Considering he was taken with the number 3 overall.
No, I know, but I'm talking about not the Sports Talk with Dad draft, but in the real draft. A lot of people are predicting that. I think it's a perfect pick.
I do. That's why
I hate to say it.
That's why I made it. Now you have a real decision to make here, because now on the clock with the 10th overall pick is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Now, if Bijan Robinson drops to Philadelphia, that would be the pick I make.
You want to talk about the best running team of all time in the NFL?
The rich get richer.
Watch B.J. Robinson fall to Philadelphia Eagles, which is very likely to happen.
I think he will be there for Philadelphia. I don't think they will take him, even if he is there. I think that's foolish.
I do too.
But based on what we have here now,
he gone.
If Gonzalez was there, I would think they'd take him. If Witherspoon was there,
he still is.
Witherspoon is there, but I don't think they take it, because in this draft, Jalen Carter is still on the board.
Jalen Carter is the difference maker, and with the number 10 pick, the Philadelphia Eagles take tackle Jalen Carter. It's a solid pick. They lost a lot of defensive linemen to free agency this year. Philadelphia really signed guys for a 1-year run at the Super Bowl on defense. This fills a void.
This takes care of them for the next 5 years. He'll be the cornerstone of their defense, and I think he is. I honestly think could be a Hall of Fame player.
Well, and you're also putting him with a leader in why can't I think of the quarterback's name right now?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts.
We'll take him under his wing.
I mean, you want to talk about a guy that faced adversity in college? Yes. Obviously not to this extent, but to a guy who was benched and still stayed at Alabama, and then took a chance to go to Oklahoma, and then had to fight to be able to start in Philadelphia. I mean, he's a great leader on top of being a great player, and this is a perfect spot for Jalen Carter to come.
On the board with the number 11 pick, the Tennessee Titans.
This is where life gets interesting.
It gets very interesting here. I think I know where you're going to go.
Because you have C.J. Stroud on the board.
Correct.
Now, here's my issue, though. Malik Willis, who was thought to be a first-round pick at one point, you drafted him last year.
Correct.
And he's still on your team.
Correct.
You still have Ryan Tannehill there with a solid, what's supposed to be a solid quarterback class coming into next year's draft. Now, this is where if the Titans trade Ryan Tannehill right here, this is where you draft a quarterback, but you still have Ryan Tannehill. You haven't changed his contract at all. So all of his contract is on the books. And if you're bringing in Stroud, you're not going to have him sit.
No.
So if Ryan Tannehill is still on there, it really doesn't make sense to bring in a quarterback, right?
And I think you've got to give Malik Willis a chance.
You do.
I don't think that there's a lot of people saying they're going quarterback. I just don't see it. I don't think it'd be a good pick. I think they would have went with somebody like a Smith Najigba if he was there. But
I agree.
I don't think he'll be there.
This is where I think, in all honesty, what I think would happen if everything pans out the way that we just planned it to. This is where Tennessee trades out of this pick.
Oh, absolutely.
And gives it to somebody who's looking for a quarterback. A lot of people are saying that Tennessee's going to trade up for a quarterback. Honestly, with this pick, if CJ Stroud's on the board, I could really see the Vikings trading up to take CJ Stroud in this position. I think it would be a great pick and a scary pick in the NFC North. So Tennessee, please don't trade the pick to the Vikings in this situation. But obviously, I have to make the pick where it is. And right now, you have a team that was 32nd, dead last in passing yards. You traded A.J. Brown to a very unhappy Mike Vrabel in that situation, and the GM ended up getting fired because of that situation. You need to replace that wide receiver, and this is where you do it. With the number 11 overall pick in the Sports Talk with Dad 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans, formerly Houston Oilers, draft Zay Flowers, wide receiver, Boston College. He's a slot guy who's going to make a difference. He's somebody you can plug and play anywhere you want to. Vrabel is very much a guy that likes to play with that type of team.
That would be the biggest stretch of the first round.
He's a speed slot guy who runs great routes. Quentin Johnson is the other wide receiver on this list. But the issue is he's not a great route runner.
I would have thought you would have went Broderick Jones, offensive tackle out of Georgia, because they need help on that line.
But you have Derrick Henry who can plow everybody over. You need a wide receiver. You need to stretch the field. You had a team that was 32nd in passing, and that's not all Tannehill's fault. It's the same thing with Rodgers last year. Tannehill's not Rodgers, don't get me wrong, but when you take away a future Hall of Fame wide receiver from anybody and give them nothing in return, it's not going to go well. This gives you a wide receiver that can stretch the field and can really eat up yards after the catch. Zay Flowers is the pick for the Tennessee Titans here.
If that comes true, that will be another one of
all this is going to come true.
Predictions.
We're not guessing, we're telling the future.
We've done it before.
With that being said, with the number 12 pick, the Houston Texans are now on the clock.
Okay. And I had them taking the only person they can take, Will Anderson Jr. at number 2. If this happens, and I think this honestly could happen.
It's a defensive head coach, right?
It's a defensive head coach, but you've got to score some points. And they need a quarterback.
You do need a quarterback.
And I think this could actually happen tomorrow night, where CJ Stroud is still on the board at number 12. And if he is, with the number 12 pick, the Houston Texans take quarterback from Ohio State, CJ Stroud. Cover your ears, Bucky. That's 2 Ohio State picks from me.
The Ohio State University. That is 3 Ohio State players in the top 12, which will happen.
Let's talk Green Bay Packers with the number 13 pick from the New York Jets.
You don't want to go into CJ Stroud anymore? No. We've
talked about
one of the greatest Ohio State quarterbacks of all time who was just taken off the board. Yeah. The least we can do is at least give a moment of silence out of gratitude for the greatness that the Houston Texans have just found themselves in.
Moment of silence for his lousy score on the test. But no.
Green Bay Packers are now on the clock. The trade just happened. The Packers now get the 13th overall pick.
I will say it again. I think Bijan Robinson is going to be on the board here. The Packers should take him without fail. You've got A.J. Dillon, and you've got, now I screwed up, Aaron Jones. Already there, but Aaron Jones isn't going to be there after this year. I think Robinson is the best player in this draft, bar none. If you're going to take the best player available, that's the way you go.
Here's the issue. Tyree Wilson, who is arguably the number 2 overall pick in this draft, is still on the board. And you know the Packers like defense. You know they like taking the best player on the board. And in this situation,
with what's left,
if Tyree Wilson is on the board, the Packers are taking Tyree Wilson. But This is my pick.
Okay,
And you got a new quarterback.
Be smart about it.
You got a new quarterback that you need to give some weapons to. You do. You have Lucas Van Ness still on the board, who would be a great pick in this situation. You do have Tyree Wilson, but honestly, this is honestly my call from a GM perspective. I'm not drafting somebody who has a broken foot.
Okay.
Now, this is where you can stretch. I get it.
But let me say this. If you're going to do this, and if you're going to pick, there's a couple tight ends in this draft that the Packers have been rumored to take. Michael Mayer. I always call him Meyer. I want to see the mask.
Yep.
Out of Notre Dame. He's an all-around tight end. The best pass catcher in this draft, and he almost like another receiver, is Dalton Kincaid out of Utah.
Correct. But there's also some corners here that you can pair along Jair Alexander.
Sure. Well, Witherspoon's still on the board.
It's
Witherspoon.
Yeah. You also need to replace Bakhtiari at some point.
I would have traded him to the Jets with Rodgers and tried to get more draft.
You have somebody like Broderick Jones still on the board in this situation. You also have Joey Porter out of Penn State still on the board. Osiris Torrance, guard out of Florida, is still on the board in this situation.
Witherspoon is the best player.
Witherspoon is the best player. He is.
Make your pick.
With the 13th overall pick. Lucky number 13, of course. The Green Bay Packers select Dalton Kincaid, tight end.
Good pick.
Out of Utah. There's no other option.
Well,
There's no other option. You want to talk about a guy who really can fit the bill as a pass catcher, as a big guy who can block, who can be a weapon for you in any situation. It's Kincaid. And I'm tired of hearing, well, we can get tight ends later in the draft. It's never worked for you. It hasn't. None of them have worked.
No, the last two great pass catchers they've had were when Mercedes Lewis will catch the ball, but they never throw to him.
Here's the thing. The last great tight ends the Packers have had, Bubba Franks and Mercedes Lewis, who they didn't utilize. Both of them, first-round draft picks.
Yep.
You need to spend the pick on a pass-catching tight end who can be a difference maker.
They're not going to do it. They're going to pick a defensive lineman.
Of course they are.
They're
going to pick Tyree Wilson in this situation, but this is my pick. Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, tight end for the Green Bay Packers. For fellow Packer fans, you're welcome.
Which puts number 14, the New England Patriots, on the clock.
It's an interesting pick.
It's an interesting pick.
This go a lot of ways.
Bill Belichick's going to take the best player he's available for his need. Broderick Jones might be that guy. I can see him doing that. I think he really likes Joey Porter. I can see him grabbing that. But
he's not afraid to draft random players in the first round either. No-name colleges.
I could see him drafting Tyree Wilson.
This would be a good place.
Be a great place for him. But he's not going to do that based on our picks. With the number 14 pick in the Sports Talk with Dad and a 2023 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots take Devon Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois.
Now, explain to me, you just got an actual offense coordinator. You need help from Mac Jones. You don't have a receiver. No. You do have Michael Mayer on the board as a tight end, which we know the Patriots with the good tight end are unstoppable, especially in the Bill O'Brien offense.
Last few they've had have been killers.
That was one. Well, that's a poor joke.
I thought it was a good joke.
Tyree Wilson, you know Bill Belichick loves defensive ends. He's still on the board in this situation. I mean, explain the pick, why you're going with Witherspoon here.
I'm going with the best talent. I think they need help on the defense. They got lit up in the secondary this last year. I know they need offensive help, but Belichick, in my mind, and it's hard to put myself in Bill Belichick's head, but he's going to look at this and figure he can get wide receivers in this draft later on. He's going to take the offensive help in the second round, third round when they have picks.
Right.
I just think looking at the best talent available, if Witherspoon drops to him, he's going to be cheering and he's going to grab him without thinking. I think Joey Porter would have been the pick had Witherspoon not been there. I think he's going secondary no matter what on this pick. Even if Tyree Wilson is there, I think he'd be a little worried about the injury, and maybe we're making too much out of him.
Maybe.
But I just think Witherspoon is the best player left on the board. I take Witherspoon.
Listen, in my lifetime, I've seen too many NFL players, too many baseball players, too many NBA players. They get a foot injury, and that's it. That's all she wrote. You're done. You don't mess with feet. I broke my foot, 2 years ago now? And listen, it still messes with me now and then. And I didn't have like a Liz Frank break or anything. It broke in the right spot where it healed on its own. I didn't need surgery or anything. But it still messes with me. It's still technically broken 2 years later.
However,
you don't mess with feet.
Wilson has had the absolute best sports trainers, sports surgeons, sports doctors.
You have, but when it comes to bones,
I know.
They just heal how they heal. And it's based on how it breaks. It's based on genetics. It's based on a lot of different things. Bones are going to do what they're going to do. Look what happened. I've had my share of broken bones. I wasn't clumsy. I was adventurous. And that's where these injuries came from. But my rib is still technically broken in the wrong spot. Like, it healed incorrectly. It's still not right. I refuse to let them re-break it. And so it's still up above the other bone. And you can't control that. Bones are going to do what they're going to do. Too many. I've had friends who have broken arms, and they had to get it re-broken because it healed wrong. There's nothing you can do about it.
I've had 8 broken ribs. It hurts a lot. There's no way I would ever let anybody re-break.
That was my thought.
But
I sneezed and re-broke it.
Yeah. So I agree with you on that. However, talent is going to outweigh that injury. I don't think he's good. In the real draft, I think Wilson goes in the top 10 to 12 picks.
This is the real draft.
I know.
This isn't pretend. This is life.
And with this real draft coming to the first half close, we've got the New York Jets on the line with number 15. This is an interesting pick because they could go defense. They could go offensive line. I think that's the pick.
You have a solid defense right now.
Got Tyree Wilson on the board.
You got Tyree Wilson on the board. But you also have a quarterback that's been complaining because you haven't given him any offensive weapons in a draft ever in his entire career.
Yeah, but if you don't,
you have to weigh that.
You don't give him some offensive lineman protection, he's going to be running for his life.
Correct. You can't draft a receiver here because, I mean, unless you're going the receiver from Tennessee, because Quentin Johnson is not the answer here. Jalen Hyatt could be a good choice here. 6 feet, so a little bit on the shorter side, but he ran a 4.4, good slot receiver. He could be a solid pick.
You've got Broderick Jones sitting there, 6'5", 311, 34 and 3/4 arm length, 10 and 5/8 hands.
Yeah, he's a monster.
The man's a monster.
He's a monster, and that definitely wouldn't be a bad pick. With Tyree Wilson here, he's going to be really hard to say no to, no matter how good your defense is, because he can make a difference.
Well, if they say no to him, he goes to the Commanders in the next pick.
I agree.
Not even Ron Rivera wouldn't even think twice.
Yes, Tyree Wilson at that point will go number 16 overall, but
your pick
with the 15th overall pick in the Sports Talk with Dad 2023 NFL Draft, the final pick of our draft, the New York Jets can't let Aaron Rodgers down the way the Packers did. With the 15th overall pick, the New York Jets select Luke Musgrave, tight end, Oregon State. Listen, you have Mayer on the board. The problem is I don't think he's worth being as high on the board, especially on the tight ends. Luke Musgrave is strong. He's fast for a tight end, running a 4.6, 6'5" and 7/8, 253 pounds, running a 4.6. That's a big man running down the field that can catch that ball. You give him to Aaron Rodgers, and that guy's going to be a star.
The problem I have with Mayer, he's a good tight end, but he's a blocking tight end that can catch a ball. He's not a he's not that 6 wide receiver.
No, he's not. And you need that for this type of offense. I mean, it could work. Mercedes Lewis is there, but honestly, with Mercedes Lewis is still out there, you can draft Musgrave, bring in Mercedes Lewis to the New York Jets, which I think they will.
I do too.
And you have exactly what Mayer is, but let's be honest, a much better version of what he is, even at 500 million years old.
Mercedes Lewis still has the best hands in football.
He does.
He never drops the ball.
He doesn't. Why the Packers didn't use him in the red zone, I don't know. He should be a red zone target when it comes to the New York Jets, and hopefully they'll use him correctly. But in this situation, you have to get that 6 wide receiver. Luke Musgrave is that player who can also stay in and block. It's a great fit. It gives another weapon to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and gets them that much closer to a Super Bowl.
And just as we said, for snicks and giggles, because I think we both agree on this, the number 16 pick would be the Washington Commanders. If Tyree Wilson's on the board, he goes to Washington.
Here. If not, he's going to Pittsburgh. He's not falling any farther than 18 or than 17.
17. I just think that's going to happen.
That's the Commanders' pick. We can agree on that one.
Yeah, Ron Rivera will have that pick up before the Jets are even off the podium.
I agree. I 100% agree. You guys let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe. Describe your comments, but make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy the show as much as we enjoy making it.
And please give us your pick for your favorite team. We didn't go through the whole top 30, so if you're a Cowboy fan or a Kansas City Chief fan, let us know who you're taking. We want to know.
I agree. That was interesting to watch you list out football teams for a second.
Well, I could have said I was going, New Orleans, Kansas. Let's go to an AFC team.
It's going to get interesting as you go, but when it comes to our top 15, it definitely sets a tone for this draft. I mean, think about it. We had all 4 quarterbacks go in the top 12, but we really shook things up, and I don't think a lot of people are expecting Seattle to take a quarterback, but in our situation, I don't think they can pass.
I don't think they pass on Bryce Young. I do think that a team like the Vikings is going to do whatever they can to trade up to take a CJ Stroud.
That number 3 overall pick for the Cardinals will be traded. I have no doubt about that, if not the number 2 overall pick. The Vikings could make a move up there. If everything stays pat, and CJ Stroud is on the board at 11, and the Titans still have that pick, the Vikings will trade up to number 11 and draft CJ Stroud.
I can see them doing that.
But again, we didn't do trades. You can't guess trades, so we're not doing that. But I think we've had a lot of fun.
We have. This has been a great... we talked about the draft last year, but this is our first official Sports Talk with Dad draft.
And you watch. I truly believe Anthony Richardson has as good a shot as any of the other 4 quarterbacks as being the number 1 overall pick. It's a generational talent that can make a huge difference on your team.
I still think he's a stretch. I think he's 2 to 3 years away from being that kind of talent. I think putting him on Carolina is going to put too much pressure on him. I think Carolina is taking Bryce Young. But Richardson it's going to make for an interesting pick for Indianapolis, because I know they like Richardson. I still think they go Will Levis.
Wait to see the Vikings mortgage the house to move up to that number 3 overall pick. I can see it happening. I really, really could. But we've had a lot of fun today, and we cannot, not even we, anybody cannot have a conversation with their dad without their dad getting the last word. So it is all you.
This is the best time of the year. Go celebrate the draft with your family, mothers and daughters, fathers and sons. Enjoy this weekend, because it's one of the absolute best weekends of the year. And if you live in the north like we do, you can't get outside to do anything else anyways. So you might as well sit back, enjoy the draft with a draft, and just root on your favorite football team. I still got my Cubby Bear out here. I'm hoping.
That looks like a panda. By the way,
it's a Cubby Bear. It's a catcher. In honor of, I was the catcher. It's a weird looking bobblehead.
Panda bear.
It's not a panda.
That's panda bear.
Anyways, enjoy the weekend with your family. Spend time with your family because we don't do enough of that in this society. Spend time with your kids. Put down your devices. Watch the TV because everyone wants to watch the draft. But talk to your kids about the draft picks and about the football you're going to be seeing. Teach them so they're ready and can share it with their kids later on.
I agree. Well said. It's nice to actually have not a controversial statement by you being made with the last word. One last advice before we go, by the way, especially to all the kids of dads out there. If you know that your dad picks tails and you're flipping a coin, make sure that coin has two heads on it only. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. We'll see you next time.
I want my words back.